Can't. Okay. Okay, this can't be this hard. All right, everyone, it is 5:30. We have some procedural issues that we need to get through. So if you give us 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, we'll get started. Again, my apologies for the delay. All right, thank you everyone for your patience. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Rapid City Area School Board regular meeting for today. Shirley, can we have a roll call, please?
Troy Carr.
Here.
Jamie Clapham. Here. Christine Stephenson. Here. Donna Moore. Here. Michael Berkland.
Here.
Walt Swan.
Here.
Katie Urban. Here. Amelia Schaefbauer. Arabella Scott. And Marisol must be absent with notice.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, we are going to, in a moment, I'm going to entertain a motion for approving the proposed agenda. Because it is a proposed agenda, at this time, we can add items to the agenda. Then we have the motion, then we can discuss. So unfortunately, due to technology, there was an addendum that needed to be added to tonight's agenda so that we can vote. This addendum, for those of you that are here, if you want a paper copy, you will be able to, the paper copy is over there so that you can see what the addendum is. Those of you that are watching live and those of you that will watch later, if you email the office, you can get a copy, or we will email you this addendum to the consent agenda. So the addendum, for those of you that are watching, the addendum that we're making is an HR addendum, which includes additional terminations and leaves, employment recommendations, change of status, and substitutes and field placements. So it's nothing different than what you've seen on agendas and the consent agenda before. But again, technology caused it to be left off, and it is an item that we need to vote on. So that item will be, this addendum is being placed in the, on tonight's agenda. All right. Any questions about that from, okay. All right. Now, with that addition to the agenda, I will now entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve tonight's proposed agenda. And so just for parliamentary education, it would be at this point, if any board member had any discussion or something you didn't like about the agenda, then this is when we would edit, take off. Bishop Carr, I didn't like that last addendum that you wanted. And then we would adjust the agenda and then vote it official. Okay, so any discussions on the agenda? All right, all in favor of accepting the proposed agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you very much. Moving right along, sharing the success.
Thank you, President Carr. I get to pinch hit tonight because Dr. Strasser is in Pierce. So first we have CTE month recognition. Bobby Joe Donovan joins us, who is our official title CCR, College and Career Readiness Manager. I have a proclamation that I'm going to read. Again, I'm reading this in stead of Dr. Strasser, so I'll go ahead. Career and Technical Education Month proclamation. Whereas February 1st through 28th, 2025 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education. And whereas Career Tech and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. Whereas our 45 CTE teachers provide our secondary students authentic, meaningful experiences which improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement. And whereas our 2 middle school career and technical education programs provide students with career exploration opportunities, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their future high school coursework and is foundational to the RCAS pathways. And whereas our RCAS 9 high school career and technical education programs of study and capstone experiences, which link to post-secondary training, industry recognized credentials, and 2- and 4-year college degrees. And whereas leaders from the business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, education, finance and accounting, and construction and technical trades. And whereas career and technical education programs ensure that employers have access to a qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring Rapid City and Black Hills region is a strong and competitive economy. Therefore, I, Dr. Corey Strasser, do hereby declare February in Rapid City area schools as Career and Technical Education Month. Any comments? Would you like to introduce your? They can introduce themselves. Okay, please feel free.
I'm Christine Plasky. To tell what I teach, okay. Well, I teach half English too. Okay, I teach Introduction to Business, Personal Finance, Fiction, Nonfiction, and Technical Writing. Christine Plasky, Central High School.
I'm Lance Pearson from Rapid City Central High School. I was in the business and personal finance for 25 years. This year I took over as our academy coordinator, just following the lead of Miss Bobby Joe and trying to do the best we can for our kids. So thank you for this month.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you all very much for what you do. Really important work.
All right. Pictures. Right, board members, any comments or on Mrs. Urban?
I just wanted to say to the CCR, or the CTE group that you guys do so many cool things. And I know Bobby Joe has sent out a newsletter and I'm just like amazed by some of the things that are happening and I want the whole world to know about it. So hopefully this month is an opportunity to share all of those things, because I just don't think, we talk about it enough. And, yeah, there's just incredible partnerships that we have with different employers, and our kids are really getting an education that looks a little different than I think we all maybe think of traditionally. Thank you for what you do.
Anyone else? All right, Mr. Sassy.
Next we have recognition of National School Counselor Week, and we are going to be joined by Rainey Mitchell and Miss Brittany Henry James. I believe they are coming in. Okay, and the counseling group. And do you all have a proclamation? Okay, yeah. Very good. So I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, Rainey. So if you guys. Keep walking. Yep. All right. Good evening, members of the school board, educators, and community members. Rainey Mitchell, our secondary lead counselor, and myself, Brittany Henry James, elementary lead counselor, wanted to thank you for this opportunity and allowing us to speak tonight as we recognize National School Counseling Week, a time to celebrate the incredible work of our school counselors and the role they play in helping all our CAS students thrive. There we go. Okay. The theme from the American School Counseling Association this year is School Counseling, Helping Students Thrive. We want to highlight some of the ways our school counselors work with students to help them thrive. Whether it's supporting a student through a tough decision, helping them develop study skills, or introducing them to college and career planning, school counselors empower students to take charge of their own growth and aspirations. Beyond academic and career guidance, our school counselors also support emotional and social well-being of students. They are often the first point of contact for students dealing with stress, peer conflicts, or personal challenges, providing them with tools to manage and overcome these obstacles. The work of school counselors is often behind the scenes, but their impact is far-reaching. School counselors play a critical role in fostering positive school environments, helping students build resilience, and empowering them to reach their full potential. During National School Counselor Week, we encourage everyone to take a moment to recognize and celebrate the work of our school counselors. They are not just advisors, but advocates, mentors, and problem solvers who dedicate themselves to supporting students every day. To our counseling team, thank you for your commitment to our schools and all of our students. Your work is an essential part of their success, and we appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
And so I'll go ahead. We have a proclamation from the governor as well. So I will read that, and then I'm going to recognize the 30 counselors in our district. I'll try to get through it pretty quick. So there's an executive proclamation by the state of South Dakota, the Office of the Governor, whereas school counselors are employed in schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development. And whereas school counselors partner with families to further the educational and personal growth of children. And whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves. And whereas school counselors identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs to assist students in becoming productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process. Now, therefore, I, Larry Roden, the governor of the state of South Dakota, do hereby proclaim the week of February 3rd, 2025 as School Counseling Week in South Dakota. And then I just wanted to recognize our 30 counselors in the district. We have some here, so if you hear your name, just go ahead and step forward. Just an important fact, in the fall semester, we logged 12,163 logged contacts with students and or families this fall by all 30 counselors. So, but I'll go ahead and get started with Lauren Mobley from Blackhawk Elementary, Caleb Chapman, Corral Drive, Kathy Harn, General Beadle Elementary, Stephanie Mock, Grandview, Jamie Schumer, Horace Mann, Jessica Cullum, Norwood, Claire Nordine, Norwood, Carrie Clark, Meadowbrook, Kimberly Eining, Pinedale, Teresa Jones, Rapid Valley, Kaylin Hadley, Robbinsdale, Diana Bachschnagel, South Canyon, Alex Greaves, South Park, Phoenix Choll, Valley View, Brittany Henry James, Wilson, Jessica Dial, East Middle School, Franny Myers, North Middle School, Jay Nelson, North Middle School, Aaron Junt, South Middle School, Tracy Caldwell, Southwest Middle School, Bryn Dreyer, West Middle School, Katie Baskerville, Central High School, Anthony Rapphorst, Central High School, Deanna Stammer, Central High School, Laura Lloyd Smith, Central High School, Rainey Mitchell, Central High School, Liz Russ, RCAA Middle School. Heather Meyer, Rapid City Alternative Academy High School. Sonia Gabb, Stevens High School. Tracy Fardell, Stevens High School. And Blake Addison, Stevens High School. And Anna Widener, Stevens High School. So thank you all school counselors at Rapid City area schools.
That's it for sharing the sex, Mr. Carr. Any questions for the ladies or?
Ms. Clapham.
I just wanted to say, I think we all have different connections in the district, and there are a few of the counselors that directly touch my children, and or I can call neighbors, some of them who are in this room and some of them who are watching on Zoom. But I just want to say the most sincere thank you. I think sometimes our staff that isn't in classrooms, I don't want to say overlooked, but those are people that make it all run, that they don't necessarily get a Christmas gift from the students at Christmas time or during Staff Appreciation Week, but without them, it falls apart. And counselors are a part of that group that sometimes gets overlooked, and you've always been important. And I think post-COVID, probably even more important in all that you do. So know that we appreciate you and thank you for everything you do every day.
All right, thank you. Ms. Stephenson.
Yeah, I just did the math and you guys were very busy, 12,000 visits, 30 counselors. It's like 400 for each of you last fall. You came all this way, you took time out of your night to come here, so I just wanted to reiterate my appreciation. And also, I think the CTE people left, but I think both groups, it's a neat thing to have honor and recognize both groups because you are so important in helping our kids find a path. And that's what our kids need. They need to find some belonging and a path through school so that they stay with it. And so just so appreciated and thank you for coming and letting us recognize you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say thank you to the counselors that are here and all the counselors. You are the backbone of the district because you hear things and deal with things that that people don't have to hear and deal with, or the whole district doesn't. And you skillfully and professionally deal with the crying and the anger and the emotions and hearing things that that you shouldn't hear that happens to our students, and you bear that, and you have to deal with your own issues. And so it's just a lot. So I just want to recognize you and know that on behalf of the board that you are a valued part of the district. Keep up the good work. And if there's anything that we can do for you, please let us know. Again, thank you. All right.
Thank you very much, board.
All right, thank you. This time, persons wishing to address the board may come forward. We have 4 tonight, so each of you have 5 minutes. First up is Mrs. Thompson.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Well, did you miss me? I've been down in Pierre for a few weeks, so my name is Florence Thompson. I'm a retired school psychologist. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education. And I'm also a lobbyist for SD-PI. So the goings on in Pierre are quite interesting. This year, there's lots of school issues, as there are every year. But this year, one of the biggest issues is school choice. And school choice, there are many initiatives all across the nation. A lot of states have already adopted various forms of school choice. And South Dakota is one of probably the later adopters. But there are at least 3 bills on school choice in the legislature now. There are different mechanisms to them for the funding and that type of thing. The main bill that is being put forward is put forward basically by Governor Nome. She put in her budget the money for this program. So it will not take any more money than she has already allotted for in her budget. and it will not take any money out of the school's fundings. So it is pretty neutral as far as funding of it. The other bills have various ways of funding, but it's hard to tell which will prevail, if any. So I know I've seen some of you down there working against them, and I've been advocating for all of the school choice bills because I think we need to have school choice. And I think the competition will make the schools better, the public schools better. And I think that the parents need that choice for their kids. Not everybody fits into the public school system. And so anyway, that's one of the things that's going. The other day, they voted down the school lunches addendum, extra money for school lunches to cover the deficits that the schools are getting from kids who either can't or don't pay. But they're already at, I think it's 150% of poverty level. So they're over the required amount now as far as the federal programs go, and the South Dakota has never gone beyond what the federal programs require. So those are just a few of the things that are going on down there. So I know I've seen some of you down there. You're well represented. You've got gobs of lobbyists. You've got your Rapid City lobbyist for Rapid City schools. You have your school board's lobbyist. You have your school, teachers union lobbyist. You have, I don't know, there's a million of them. You have the big schools lobbyist. And it just, the list goes on and on. So you're well represented. I do think sometimes it's overkill as far as the legislators are concerned because they're all representing the same thing. They all come in one after the other. And I really don't know that it's money-wise for Rapid City Schools to hire their own lobbyists. So anyway, that's my 2 bits. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Up next is Ms. Borger.
Good evening, it's Jennifer Berger. My name is Jennifer Berger. I'm a parent of 3 students in the district. I might be a familiar face because I was here last year asking you for some support for our speech and debate team at Stevens High School. And I'm back again to advocate for our speech and debate programs and coaches. If you recall last year, our team was really struggling. We had lost our coach. Student numbers, participation numbers were decreasing. And a lot of our concern was that similar coaches across the state were being paid double what our speech and debate coaches are being paid in Rapid City. We were having a really hard time finding someone to fill the position. And I believe that the district has been inadequately compensating this coaching position for years. And so I'm here tonight to ask again that in your upcoming negotiations with RCEA that you consider a pay raise or restructuring for the speech and debate coaches in our district. As a parent volunteer, I've seen firsthand what it takes to be a speech and debate coach. For starters, the season runs from September through March, so it's almost a year-round school year-long activity. During the season, practice is held for 5 hours a week, so every night after school for an hour, the students meet. And because the season is so long, that's over 22 weeks of 5 hours a week of practice. Outside of practice, the speech and debate team travels to some local competitions. There's usually 3 to 7 local competitions, as well as 8 to 10 East River competitions for our team. And these are a great place for our students to practice their skills, to sharpen each other with seeing other strong debaters in the state. And we're really grateful that they're able to attend those. But for a coach to attend the competition, the whole weekend starts on Thursday night when they leave after school to drive the students across the state. On Friday morning, they're up early, getting the students ready to be at their competition by 8 a.m. And the coaches serve not only as a coach, but also as a judge for the competition for the weekend. So they usually are there until about 6 or 7 at night, judging and coaching the kids. To do this on Friday and Saturday means they're working at least 20 hours over the weekend and driving to and from East River. You can see the time commitment alone just for the basic responsibilities is very demanding. And I think the current compensation is more in line with a 6-week type of coach. And I think it needs to be addressed to compensate more fairly for all the commitments. Where do I see my time, Troy?
We'll let you know.
Okay.
Just keep going
I
until.
just wanted to
you're
tell you
gavel.
that we are so grateful. We've had 3 wonderful coaches step up this year. And even over the past years, we have been blessed with some awesome coaching staff, even through some of our struggles. And the coaches instill so much confidence, perseverance, and resiliency in our kids. You know, speech and debate is such an equalizer for our students. Students can come there from being shy and insecure to developing the confidence to get up and speak in front of a group of strangers. In debate, the students are learning to see both sides of an issue. They're able to consider someone else's perspective as well as their own. And oftentimes they have to defend another perspective that they may or may not agree with, but they need to understand it so they can defend it. You can see how this skill is so important in today's society, that we can listen and consider other people's points of view, and speech and debate provides that. I also just want to let you know that our team has been so successful and has sent students to the national competition, where even last year we had a student that placed 5th in the nation in speech and debate. And so your continued support for the program is very important, and I would like you to consider this in your upcoming negotiations. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Up next, Ms. Dunnigan.
Thank you for your time. My name is Charlotte Vanderwall Dunnigan, and I've been part of the speech and debate coaching staff at Stevens High School off and on for the last 8 years. I'm here to remind you that remind the board that the RCAS speech and debate coaching staff is still not compensated appropriately for the amount of work required to run the team. By way of reminder, the work includes a full tournament schedule and various roles a coach is expected to manage, including driver, chaperone, coach, and judge. You may recall last summer, the superintendent said that we could easily add a memorandum of activity, I think that's what it's called, to each of the coaching contracts until it could be revisited during the contract negotiations. Unfortunately, last summer that did not happen. As you know, speech and debate in Rapid City is important. The strategic team event is alive and well in South Dakota, with tournaments running across the state from the end of September through March, and then nationals in June. Presently, the Stevens team has grown from 5 students to 22 regularly competing students. We have practices every day, and there are 3 coaches that drive 3 Suburbans across the state several times a month so we can compete with some of the toughest competition in the nation. These tournaments run 2 days, and students compete in speaking events, including Lincoln Douglas debate, public forum debate, and extemporaneous speaking. With the debate, they don't know what side they're going to debate until moments before they walk into the room. Sometimes it's at the flip of a coin. They have to be ready to go either way. They work really hard. They do research for fun. They put in work outside of class, and this is their social activity. This past summer at nationals, this was the 40th year that Stevens qualified a national student or students for nationals. More statistics from nationals. Olivia Borger, Jen's daughter. Stevens Senior finished 5th in the nation in big question debate. This auto qualifies her for nationals in 2025, and she is the first Stevens student to achieve a 4-time national ranking. Sioux Falls Jefferson received National Student of the Year, first South Dakota to be crowned. Aberdeen had a national runner-up student of the year. Aberdeen coach was the national coach of the year. Sioux Falls Jefferson coach was a 4th Diamond, they measure levels of activity by merit and stuff like that. So fourth Diamond is pretty high up there. We were in South Dakota, there was third in the nation in public forum out of Brookings. A student was sixth in the nation for informative out of Sioux Falls, Washington. We were top 14 in drama at Sioux Falls, Jefferson, top 14 in program oral interp speaking, Sioux Falls, Jefferson. And I'm not even going through all of them. So all that to say, speech and debate is very important in South Dakota. So as you consider the coaching staff and contracts and all the things, please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll say Amanda and let you tell,
That's fine.
DeMaria, okay.
Yep, you got it. I'm Amanda DeMaria. I'm the assistant principal over at Horace Mann Elementary. It's been a rough couple weeks at our school. But I did want to take a moment to just really thank all the people that stepped up for our school, especially during this very challenging time. The response from across our district was incredible. We had over 50 people respond to that call for help. 13 administrators, approximately 10 counselors, the behavior team, 15 staff members from other buildings, and many additional district staff all came together without hesitation. Their dedication made such an impact that I am bringing this to the school board to ensure that everyone knows about the incredible people who stepped up when it mattered most. Their immediate action and commitment ensured that our students and staff had the resources, stability, and care that they needed. Whether it was offering guidance, maintaining structure, or simply being a reassuring presence, each of them played a vital role in keeping our school moving forward. Their willingness to help no matter the task did not go unnoticed. On behalf of Horace Mann Elementary, I want to thank all of them. Their dedication does not go unnoticed, and we truly appreciate every single one of them.
Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Clapham. Oh, hold on. Response, we're at item 6, board response to open forum. All right, Ms. Clapham.
I will try my best to be succinct, and I wrote my notes so that I would be clear, hopefully. One, I wanted to say to Mrs. Thompson, one, I applaud your dedication to your civic duty, and it is challenging to be at the Capitol and doing all the things. And I applaud the fact that, you know, as people and groups different ideas, that we can express that respectfully. I would say when it comes to competition, and I think just the public needs to hear this, I've heard often that, well, school choice creates competition. And as I was listening to the education committee, someone else phrased it very well, that competition works as competition is equal and even. Competition between schools that are not required to have accountability, not required to have tests, not required for their funds to be audited by the government, it's not equal. So that's one of the reasons that competition between non-public schools and accredited public schools is not equal and would not necessarily create the market that it is believed to create. I do think we do benefit from our lobbyists. Rapid City Schools does not always align with the large schools necessarily, or necessarily with ASBSD, and we feel to best serve our constituents and our community that our interests need to be represented in Pierre just as well as every other district. I wanted to say thank you to the teach and debate. I think right before negotiations, we have a month before negotiations, so something to be reminded of and considered. I do appreciate that. I do know the MOU was brought up. Sometimes MOUs can be complicated and create new problems that we don't want. So, but the reminder was very timely, and so we appreciate that, and we'll take it under consideration. And I just wanted to say how incredibly powerful and gracious, Ms. DeMaria, and the time that your school is in absolute crisis, that it just says, and I know this because I've seen you at Candy Lake, it just says something about your character as a leader, that your first thought is to thank the people that are serving you. And I I am so grateful that our students and our staff have leaders like you and leaders that see that and that show grace. And so I really appreciate you bringing that. I have been thinking of your school a lot. I'm sorry, I haven't been over yet, but I know it's been a rough time, and I just really appreciate your grace and leadership and bringing that forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Urban.
Thanks, Jamie. I just kind of want to say ditto on a lot of that. I love speech and debate. I'm really excited about it. And this is my first year on the board. And so I am learning what negotiations will look like, but I think it's an incredibly valuable program. And so I hope it's treated as such, moving forward. To Miss DeMaria, I, I always think it's incredible, and I've witnessed this a number of times when we have a tragedy in our schools. You really feel that school community and just how strong and how important it is. And I talked to a mother the other day who has a daughter, and that was very close to Miss Paisley, and she's felt supported. She's been able to reach out to counselors, and I just think it's just been so important. And I'm so grateful for all the other staff that have come together to support Horace Mann during this time. And I know that if there was a tragedy at another school, we would do the same for them. So I'm grateful for the school community and for all you have done. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? I want to address, and with any issue, there's always two sides of the issue, but one of the important things is whatever side you're on in support in the issue of school vouchers, I think it's very important to have factual information. And those that are supporting the school vouchers, one of their platforms is that it's financially neutral, that you're not taking money from the schools to have this voucher program. And that's inaccurate, even though the truth is they're not taking actual money from the school. Indirectly, if a student that's in the district now chooses to go to whatever type of voucher system, then that's less money that comes into the school district. And so while it's not taken directly out of our bank account, it's less money that we have. So the statement of it not being financially damaging to the district is in error, especially when we have state mandated increases every year. And so it's very deceiving. And I just want to set the record straight that public schools will be financially damaged if this voucher program is approved. For a person that makes their living talking a lot, and I'll take the privilege to give you insight during my parent-teacher conference. When my mom would go to parent-teacher conference, the teacher would say, "Oh, Troy's such a good student. He's kind. He gets good grades, but he talks too much. And he talks to everybody." And so speech and debate is very important to me, and I value it and what it does, the things that were mentioned on today. And so it is on our radar. And Coy, I want to ask, obviously not get into all the specifics. And please, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, even though it may seem like it. But because this is in negotiation, it also has to be a desire of that group to give to that debate, right?
Certainly,
Okay. All right.
certainly, yeah.
So
It is because of the nature of the schedule residing in the RCEA agreement. It is on both parties to agree and either party to bring forward that interest.
okay.
So certainly, that would have to be a mutual interest that was agreed upon by both parties.
Okay, so I think that brings a little bit of clarity to the issue. Again, as other board members said, thank you for bringing it to our attention. And I don't know what group it's brought in, but we will take a look at it and see what we can do. All right. No other hands. We're moving on. to our student representatives. First off, Stephen High School, Miss Scott.
Good evening, board. It's good to see you all here after a couple weeks, and I have a lot of news to share. So to start off my report today, Stevens held a pep rally on Friday in the Carroll Hire Gymnasium. Gymnasium in anticipation of the Raider Cobbler Whiteout for Cancer basketball games on Friday and Saturday. There was a riveting staff versus student basketball game in which the staff won 12-11 victory with the help of the refs. There was also a half-court shooting contest, and Miss South Dakota, Joelle Simpson, taught the student body the Stevens Fight Song. Similarly, the Stevens girls varsity basketball team went on to collect a victory over Central that same Friday, January 31st. I would also like to mention that our very own Talia Porter is only points away from breaking Rapid City local and WNBA great Becky Hammond's all-time Stevens scoring record. Porter is now only 3 points away from the record after Friday's game, and we could not be more proud of her. The Stevens boys basketball team competed Saturday, and they also defeated Central, coming out with a win for their boys senior night. During the halftime of the game, Rapid City Area Schools district community members were honored for their fights against cancer. We are proud to wear Whiteout for Cancer, and we are there with our community members every step of the way. Switching gears, the boys wrestling team will be holding their senior night during their varsity duels against Central at 7 p.m. at Stevens High School this Thursday. The girls wrestling team will also be competing in duels versus Central earlier that Thursday evening at 6 p.m. at Stevens High School. Next, the district is fortunately offering a full-length digital practice ACT exam at selected locations across the district. The students of Stevens were able to pre-register for the practice exam for free, and those signed up will take the test at 1:15 p.m. on Stevens campus. We are very lucky to have access to a free practice test that has all the resources to prepare us for the district-offered ACT in March. Thank you to all who helped organize this practice ACT. Furthermore, the Stevens High School Drama Club performed their one act titled Fame at 7 p.m. in the Milo Winter Auditorium on both Monday, February 3rd and today, February 4th. They will also be traveling to Brookings for the South Dakota High Schools Activities Association State One Act competition. It will be a busy week for our drama club, and we wish them luck. Stevens High School will be holding Alice emergency training on Wednesday, February 5th, and we will be running on an assembly schedule. Next, once a month, South Canyon Lutheran Church provides Stevens grades 10 through 12 with a free lunch. And this is a place that people can come together for conversation and to eat. The church is only a short walk away from the school, and many kids take part in the monthly event. This past month, Miss Malik's culinary arts students baked and frosted 400 cupcakes made with ingredients bought by the church for the free lunch day this month. And they brought them over to be served with the meal. Thank you to all who make free lunch possible. And as many of you know, the Student School Board held its first meeting last Monday, January 27th at 5:30 p.m. Our newly formed board took an oath of office, elected officers, and voted on amendments to bylaws. I just wanted to thank Amelia, Kristen, and all the students who proposed the idea of the Student School Board, and of course, the Adult Board of Education for approving it. I'm really excited to see where this goes. And to end my report for the night, our staff spotlight this week is Amber Hoffman. Mrs. Hoffman has been teaching for the last 27 years, and the last 24 of them have been at Stevens High School. She teaches AP English Language and Composition along with English 11. She went to Black Hill State University for her undergraduate degree and decided to teach because she's always loved school growing up. She especially loves reading and writing, and that's why she chose to go into language arts. Mrs. Hoffman spends her free time with her children, and she also enjoys gardening regularly. She has helped many students succeed in English, and Stevens is very grateful for her work. Thank you, Mrs. Hoffman, for everything you do. We appreciate you greatly. And that's all I have for tonight, so go Raiders. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Wonderful report. Board members, any questions, comments about that report? Mrs. Urban?
Did you say it was South Canyon that provides the lunch?
Yes, it's South Canyon Lutheran Church.
What a great ministry.
Yeah.
Thank you to them.
All right, at this time, before Ms. Schaefbauer comes, I'd just like to congratulate her. She was selected by her peers on the student school board as school board chairman. They use the word chairman and not president. So just congratulations to you, and it just tells the respect that your fellow board members have for you. So thank you very much, and we're ready for your report.
Thank you, President Carr. I really appreciate that. And hello, everyone. Hello, board, and everyone watching at home, and everyone in the audience. Just to start off, I didn't actually know it was National Counselor Week, so I'd just like to recognize our counselors at Central. Huge thank you for all they do. I know Ms. Clapham and Ms. Stephenson, you kind of talked about how they're a little bit overlooked sometimes, and I think our students don't really say thank you a whole lot. So hopefully I'd like to say thank you on behalf of all of them for everything that the counselors do and our CTE teachers. So then going on to some semester one news, the honor roll was tallied, and I'm proud to say we have 611 students total from all grades on the honor roll. This is really exciting, and I'm sure that second semester will stay the same way or even have more people. We also had 33 students earn perfect attendance. And on the topic of attendance, students have kind of been having some troubles with tardies and absences. So to combat this, if any student reaches 5 tardies, they will be given a mandatory detention after school, and they have the ability to be tutored during this time so they can work on their grades and catch up on their missing assignments. The goal of this is not to actually punish these students, but to encourage them to reach their full potential, as those who attend class are more likely to see it academically. There's also a new policy that all students with open blocks must report to the library. So there's a lot less traffic in the hallway going on, and skipping class is maybe a little bit harder for them. In event and activity news, our Intro to Health Services class visited SD School of Mines to attend Scrubs Camp. At camp, they were able to learn about several different healthcare careers and do a little bit of hands-on work. In the photos, students were learning about wounds and MRSA. This is a great opportunity, and from what I've heard from my fellow students, they really enjoyed this experience and would love to do it again. Central also participated in the whiteout basketball game. They may have lost, but we're still very proud of them for all they did.
Refs.
And so congrats to the refs and not Stevens. But anyway, this event actually intended to raise money for cancer, and attendees were encouraged to buy t-shirts to support this. The design is made by a student, and congrats to Andrea Albor for having the winning submission. It was really pretty. I saw it, so if you weren't there, you missed out on the t-shirt. Our debate team has also been doing really amazing lately, and having attended 2 tournaments in the last couple of weeks, they've actually won 26 awards, including multiple first places and sweeps in multiple events. Then for upcoming activities, the One Acts performed yesterday and tonight. I think they're actually going on right now, unfortunately, for everyone here. These shows include the student-directed show Stage Parents and the state show, which is actually called Troy. So I didn't know we made a play for you, President Carr. But anyway, Troy will be shown this weekend at the state show, and we hope they do well, which we know they will. And we also have an orchestra concert coming up next Tuesday, February 11th at 7:00 p.m. in Central's Commons. This will be a much more casual concert and include combo performances from our chamber ensembles and fun music such as Kiss the Girl from The Little Mermaid and Don't Stop Believin'. So if you want some fun songs, be there. Central is also proud to announce that we now hold all 3 offices on the student school board. The first meeting went really great, as Ms. Scott said, and I'd like to point out that we have some amazing members of our board actually in the audience today. There will be 2 or 3 attending every meeting from now on, so very excited to have them here. We're also really grateful to the board and all of you guys who were really instrumental in helping us get this started. And we're really excited to have a place for students to actually share their voices and talk about what they think for our district. So thank you guys for that. And once a cobbler, always a cobbler.
That's right. Go Cobblers. All right. Wonderful report. Ms. Stephenson?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the reporting to the library for open periods. Before, was that kind of like, do whatever you want, leave campus?
Yeah, so students can still leave campus if they're able to. Usually people are kind of hanging out in the commons, the lunchroom, where we have some little like comfortable chairs just in the hallways, which was kind of making it hard to determine who's skipping class or who hasn't opened. So now they're making everyone report to the library, which will also hopefully encourage studying rather than just sitting and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Is it being taken okay, the change? Or?
I think so. I've seen a much increased presence in the library, but there's enough space for everyone. So I think it's doing pretty well.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Right, very good. Any other board member questions for our student reps? All right, thank you. And again, welcome to those of you that are on the student school board. And I think one of the things, I don't know where we'll fit it in on the agenda, maybe doing student representatives. But if there are any questions that the student school boards, as they monitor and watch, if there's any questions on why we do this or whatever it is, it'd be a great time for us to take some time to educate. I guess that is the business that we're in.
Yes.
So if they have any questions, they see something, why did this member do that? It'd be a great opportunity. So maybe around this time, we'll do that. Okay, anybody else? All right, moving on. This time we'll have our acting superintendent report, and he's on Zoom because he is in Pierre attending, I guess, the superintendent, whatever it is. Tell us what it is, but Dr. Strasser.
Yes, I will. Thank you, President Carr. Good evening, school board. Want to say thank you to the student reps for continuing their great reports. And kind of based off of some of what they were saying, I do want to just reiterate that there are seasons of challenge in a school year. And oftentimes our administration has to make adjustments in order to support the learning environment and maintaining, a culture around support and learning. So sometimes, that can be received well by students, but sometimes when you tell students a certain thing, that's kind of the nature of operating our schools. So I think they're off to a good start in terms of understanding what they need to do in order to ensure student success. So, but with that, in my report tonight, I wanted to just reiterate what was mentioned earlier. Very pleased with our district, and I want to reiterate a thankfulness for all the staff who stepped up to support their peers and colleagues at Horace Mann. It's one of the great things about the people at RCAS. You see them really step up and help out at various times and in times of need. So that was great. If you've noticed, our weather forecasts are showing more potential for challenging weather. We have inclement weather information, how we view it, how we respond to it. We have that on the RCS website. It's under the Parents tab. And we also have it, I know we have communication in our student handbooks. That's not necessarily readily available for people, but we do put that information out there. With our late start on Monday, we were able to use Aptigy's Thrill Share to communicate with families instead of School Messenger. And if you're aware, that communication platform just went live last Friday. So whether it's good or bad or not, but we were able to test it out and get the communication out to our families and community. So from a communication standpoint, that was encouraging, and you don't see it, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes to get things moving and ready, and that was a really big step for us. A quick piece on the OCR work that we've been doing. So the district has created a web page for Ms. Veit, Director of Positive School Climate and Culture. You can find a short biography and her contact information. The website summarizes the district's anti-harassment, anti-discrimination, anti-bullying policy, and provides information about filing a public complaint. So the district's policy for addressing alleged violations or misinterpretations of district policy as well. As required by our voluntary resolution agreements, the public complaint policy now has a fillable form, and that's available right on our website. Let's see. Also, as part of that, the district has created that form to assist community members, students, and our employees who may need guidance or support in filing a complaint or hoping to resolve an issue. So once that form is submitted, the district employee will reach out to provide that support. And again, you can find that if you just search on our website, You can search public complaints. You can search keywords like discrimination. Also, Ms. Veit's contact information always in our staff directory like everybody else. Last thing tonight is, yes, I'm in Pierre for the Superintendent's Day at the Capitol, and that's just an opportunity to meet with legislators, go to committee meetings, such as the Education Committee meeting tomorrow morning. And then we have various superintendent-based meetings all around the work of the legislature. So that's my report, and if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, any questions? Thank you, Dr. Strasser. That was an awesome report. Any questions for Dr. Strasser? Mrs. Stephenson?
Thanks, and thanks for being in Pierre tonight. I hope you don't run into weather on the way home on Thursday. My comment / question, that I saw that complaint assistance form. So one of the things that came up when we were hearing from people about the SROs is people feel a little lost if they feel like they'd like to lodge a complaint against an SRO. They were sent to the sheriff's office or the police department. Is this a form that those students or families can fill out, and will Dr. Veit or someone from the district help monitor that process as well?
I think that's something, let me, I don't want to jump to a conclusion on that. I would say this is an opportunity to file a complaint regardless, because if you're talking discrimination, bullying and so forth, this is that opportunity. So if that does involve a school resource officer, I would say this is an opportunity for that. And if I need to give you a little more clarity on that, I can follow up.
I'd love a little more clarity on that, just so I have the right information when people ask me about it.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? I would like to say this new and improved complaint form is an attempt by the board to really be sensitive and reactive to the complaints that the community has. And quite frankly, if I'm honest, we haven't always done a great job in communicating the complaint form, being reactive to the complaint form. But I know that there is a commitment from the board to improve this area. So if you're just patient with us, we are making a commitment to, if you have a complaint, please use this form. And we have dedicated administration to make sure that we're on top of not only logging the complaints, categorizing the complaints, making sure that somebody responds to you. And again, just that response may not be to your satisfaction of solving the problem. An example, if you say, your student needs to have filet mignon for lunch every day, we look at that, log that, call you back, but it's probably not going to have filet mignon every day. So again, if you're patient with us doing this process, we want to do better and be better to listen to your complaints. All right, Mrs. Urban.
If you said this, I apologize, Dr. Strasser, but I was just looking at that complaint form online. Is it possible to make it something that they can fill out and just hit submit online instead of having to somehow print it out? I just think it might be a barrier.
Yeah, Bobby, I think that is, that you can fill it out online.
It's the complaint assistance form all the way at the bottom that they're referring to. The one is actually policy that is, you do have to fill it out online and then email it to the coordinator, which would be Gary.
Okay, I see the assistance form.
So we're talking about two
Oh,
different
lovely.
forms.
Got it.
The
Okay.
filing complaint form, but the new thing is the complaint assistance form.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that's a Google Doc.
Yeah, I found it. Thank you, Bobby.
All right, anybody else on Dr. Strasser's report? All right. Thank you, Dr. Strasser. Have fun and be safe. Okay, our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Sasse's report.
Thank you, President Carr. I'm actually going to defer, excuse me, most of my comments will be in other items on the agenda. I do very briefly want to touch on the Federal Department of Education situation. I've had a lot of folks reaching out. I think a significant amount of speculation on what that might look like. Not going to claim I'm an expert on what it would take to dissolve a cabinet like that. Obviously, the speculation is that there will be an executive order issued to dismantle the Department of Ed. What I do know is that that's a long process, and it does require, and no pun intended, an act of Congress to approve. So we will monitor the situation closely and continue to watch as it unfolds. I do think it's important to understand the major connection to the Federal Department of Education for our district lies primarily in what are called the formulaic grants. So those would be grants like Title I, Title II Part A, and some of their accompanying programs. As a dollar amount, that's probably a $6 to $8 million a year pot of money for our district. So it is not insignificant. Keep in mind, those programs are aimed at disadvantaged students, primarily to supplement the educational experience that the general fund is providing. So a significant portion in many districts around the nation, and our district as well, of that funding is wrapped up in personnel. So it becomes concerning in terms of what would ultimately happen as they unwound that department. Where does the money go? What happens at that point in terms of how those gaps are covered? Not, again, pretending to be an expert or that I have secret information anyone else doesn't have. In a lot of the reading I've done, it sounds like the idea would be that if this were accomplished, there would be some type of bulk grant funding mechanism where a lot of that funding would be pushed out to states, and ultimately the state Department of Education or whatever department that particular state determines would be in charge of that would determine how that's allocated then out to schools. I think, again, the idea being that states would know how to appropriate that in a way that the federal government would not. So again, I don't know more than anyone else. I would stress the idea that there is a process that must happen for this to be accomplished, and that's a long process. And I think this is a time for poise and not panic as we wait for the situation to play out. And again, obviously, we'll continue to monitor, and we will be prepared in the situation that something like that happens to respond to that. But again, I think at this point, it's a time for poise, and we wait and see how this situation goes. And that's all for this portion.
All right.
President Carr.
Any questions for Mr. Sasse? I do want to bring up, and maybe Dr. Strasser can get back on, but again, with the change in our nation's administration, another issue that was communicated to the board was what we were going to do about the immigration status and the change in policy. Dr. Strasser did put together some information and got that out to principals and students so that the community is clear on our stance on that issue. So did I say that right, Dr. Strasser? Was there anything you wanted to clarify?
Yeah, that's correct, President Carr. And anytime you look at changes that come our way, what our response is, and number one, we're always going to follow what the law is telling us that we need to follow. I think we've got really good procedures and communication in place between our schools, our school safety manager, and our local law enforcement. So we have, from that standpoint, communication and protections for all our students, and we want to maintain schools as places of learning. That's our emphasis, but we also, again, adhere to all the laws that we're required to, and we'll take, we'll follow those appropriately. So we support our students in our environments.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, any board members, questions, comments on either of the reports? All right, at this time, no conflicts of interest. Item 11, I will entertain a motion to approve the Rapid City Area School Policy and Procedures first reading.
I'll motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Rapid City Area School Policies and Procedures. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of approving the Rapid City Area School Policies and Procedures, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If there's a no, please say no. Right, motion carries. Supposed to, actually, when a motion carries, I'm supposed to tap
That's
my
right.
gavel.
Teach them. We're teaching. Good job.
All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the proposed agreements.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed
Agreements.
wait a
Agreements.
minute, of proposed agreements. Okay, I'm on the wrong line. Thank you very much. That's gonna happen, school board. You're gonna get confused. Ms. Shayfire, don't worry about it. Just, make a joke about it and move on. All right, so we had a first and second to approve the proposed agreements. Any discussion? See no discussion. All in favor of approving the proposed agreements signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any no, please say no. Okay, motion carried. At this time, is there any item on the consent agenda that a board member would like to pull?
Yes.
Okay,
Oscar and Papa, please.
there we are.
Por favor.
All right.
I still haven't learned, but can we
Yeah.
also can we pull N, please?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's November.
November.
yeah, November,
Well,
very good.
February.
All right, so we have November, Oscar and Papa pulled. Any other board member would like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda except for items November, Oscar and Papa.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items minus November, Oscar and Papa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion carried. All right, November, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Rapid City Area Schools legislative position.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved. Second discussion.
Yeah. I was just mostly curious about the blanks. So like we have neutral, support, oppose on there. Are the blank ones later to come, or is that the same as neutral? Where are we at?
Great question. First of all, let me say, I think we are still working through some of the kinks in this. I would say, and Dr. Strasser, you please feel free to give your opinion as well. If we have a blank, then at this point, we don't have a recommended official stance to the board. And those would not be represented as such. Only those items that we've recommended an official stance would move on then as official stance of the board at this point. I thought we had cleared that up and had that correct and that those were removed, but we do not, and we'll make sure we do that next time. Dr. Strasser, anything you would add to that, sir?
Yeah, I think what you said is very accurate, Mr. Stassi, and some of this is, especially on my end, I haven't vetted it out well enough to provide a proper recommendation. So that's something that I need to be more quick on in terms of getting this updated and to you all for formal recommendations and approval. So yeah, we're learning, and I'm a little bit behind on getting you the proper recommendation.
And just for the public, this is new to the board as far as I know that the board is taking and notifying our official positions on the legislative agenda. In future years, you will be seeing the board take a more active role in the legislative process. And even we have plans for next year for even introducing bills and again, being more proactive in our legislative positions. And this item goes to that. And so as Dr. Strasser said, we're still kind of working on what to do and not what to do. There are bills that come in and go out. And so it can be a very complicated process, but our goal is for the public to know, the community to know where the district stands on our legislative issues. All right, any other comments?
Yeah, can I make one more?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. The reason that I was asking is there was one that I wanted to address, and that was HB 1177. And that one, regardless of how you feel about the content of it, my concern is for our staff and anything that punishes our staff. And that feels vague to me. So I personally, and this doesn't need to be addressed tonight, I don't expect it to be addressed tonight, but I just want to share with everyone, I personally would like to see us oppose 1177 just until there is more clarity at the very least.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. And again, that's what this this document is, and the process is for us to discuss where our position is. All right, anyone else? All right, time for I was studying on procedures, so at this time I would ask, are you ready for the question? And that means, are you ready for
Wait,
the
is
vote?
Kate, no,
She's not.
Oh,
you're
sorry.
ready.
Okay,
Oh.
disregard.
Okay, so we're ready for the question. All in favor of approving the Rapid City Area Schools legislative positions, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay, motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve, and let's do this. I think I can do it, even if can't do it, I'm gonna do it. But let's put Oscar and Papa together. We did it the last time, so let's, instead of having two different motions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff learning calendar for 25-26 and the student learning calendar for 25-26. I need that motion.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the staff learning calendar and the student learning calendar for the school year 25-26. Discussion. Well, actually, debate is more accurate. Oh, Ms. Urban.
Thank you. So I wrote my comments down just so I didn't forget anything. I received more than 50 comments on social media and through email regarding the calendar, and I'm happy to share those with anyone that's interested. But there were some clear themes that emerged from the feedback. For the purposes of this proposed changes, the majority of the people I heard from want next year's calendar to remain as is, not necessarily because they oppose the changes in general, but because they've already made plans, whether that's for Thanksgiving break, graduation, or other commitments. And that was I heard that from several people. I think that they're open to discussing future adjustments. They just prefer not to alter a calendar that's already been approved. Additional comments include ending the school year too early. I heard that quite a bit. AP tests would occur after school is out. Many staff feel that the last 2 weeks of May are already packed with year end events, making a tighter schedule challenging. Thanksgiving break, for most people that I heard from, the majority favored keeping it for the full week. The semester timing, I know that this proposal didn't change the start date, so just maybe keeping in mind for the future that there's a lot of concern about starting early like we are next year because of heat. And for some families, there's other community events that are happening in August that they don't want their children to miss, but the heat was a big one. However, they do like ending that semester before Christmas, and so that's a bit of a conundrum, obviously. And I do think Memorial Day graduation is not super popular. So I think that's something that people are open to discussing in the future as well. Just right now, since plans have already been made, they like it just to keep it as is. Based on the input that I received, and wanting to be responsive to the people that we serve, I'll be voting to keep next year's calendar as is. Looking ahead, I think it would be beneficial to form a calendar committee that includes a diverse group of district and community members that could help find a balanced solution and accommodate the needs of students, staff, and families. But again, for next year, given that the calendar was already approved, I think I'm going to vote to keep it as is.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Clapham.
Similar things, I will be brief. I think one of the things I have learned, and I have learned a great deal in 3 years on this board, and one of the things that I have learned in a way is people and our constituents really appreciate time. This has happened with when we changed boundaries, when Canyon Lake's closing, people appreciate time. And so my main reasoning, and I want to say caveat too, that I fully respect the reasons that Dr. Strasser brought this change, and I really do understand them. And I think a student-centered and education-centered calendar is very important. But I think I've just learned that our community needs time to process things. And so to go 6-ish months away to change it, I feel pretty strongly that that doesn't necessarily represent what our community desires. So I'm the same, that I would be voting no. And again, I think just more of the timing, not because of what the changes are, but more of the timing.
Okay, Mr. Berkland.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add. Especially coming from an education background, I definitely respect the changes from an educational standpoint. That week after Thanksgiving and then right into Christmas is tough. That is terrible. But for me right now, kind of similarly, it feels like the timing is important, and I don't know that the changes necessarily are that urgent. I think they are good changes. I totally agree, especially I've heard a lot about Memorial Day weekend, and I've also heard about starting too early. I don't know what to do. There is no perfect calendar, which is also part of why I feel more okay leaving the current calendar. Because it's also not perfect. The new one's probably not perfect, but it is what people know and have planned for. And honestly, shout out to them. I don't know what I'm doing next week hardly, so good for you for having a Thanksgiving plan. But I do understand that there are people that are that way and have made those plans that far out. So I also, at this point, will likely be voting to keep the current calendar.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Stephenson.
Thanks. So this is another one of those decisions where I very respectfully, I listen to your thoughts. I have a lot of respect for the input that you've gathered and for the people who have reached out to me on both sides of this issue. This is one issue where I just really feel like I can never gather adequate information. I'm going to hear from the same people that pay attention to school board meetings. And I can imagine that there are a lot of people out there who have not planned Thanksgiving because it's such a pain for them to have the whole week off and the 2 weeks off and the extra day at Christmas. And what I heard from Dr. Strasser is that he was making some changes to make this a more student-focused calendar, a calendar that's focused on student success. And in this environment where we never have enough resources to do the things that we would like to do for our students, we have to go for the low-hanging fruit. It is short notice, and I really respect that position of not wanting to change because we do need to build trust. All that is to say, though, I mean, most of what I've heard is about Thanksgiving, and it is 10 months off, and I don't trust myself to make a calendar. That's why we hire a superintendent. I'm gonna support these changes for those reasons.
Okay, Dr. Strasser.
Thank you all for sharing more of your thinking tonight and really putting real high quality thought into it, getting that feedback and bringing it here tonight. Calendars will always be debatable. There's going to be great thoughts on many different fronts. There's no doubt about that. Bringing this forward, I said from the beginning, we have an approved calendar. I was approached about some potential changes. I took a look at it, worked with various levels, meaning elementary, middle, high school. It's been vetted out within buildings, including students, including some parents. So it wasn't just, hey, let's do this. I think that's important. Anything we try to do, I think needs to be very student-centered. That doesn't mean that the calendar that's currently approved is a bad calendar. It is not. But we looked at certain things that could be beneficial to kids and maintain the integrity of our obligations to staff with our professional development and within the contractual obligations. So those are all the things that go in a very short synopsis. There's much more nuance to it, but regardless of how you look at it tonight, these are things that moving forward we want to be very mindful of and will take into future calendars. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so for clarity, Shirley, we're going to do a roll call vote. And for clarity, a yes vote is to support the change of the 25-26 staff and student learning calendar. A no vote is to oppose the change, and it will then the previously approved 25-26 calendar will remain the same. Any questions? We're all on the same page. All right, Shirley, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Troy,
No.
Jamie,
No.
Christine,
Yes.
Donna,
No.
Michael,
No.
Walt,
No.
Katie,
No.
motion fails 1
To 6.
to 5 or 6, excuse me.
Okay, all right. At this time, we're making good time, actually. Does anybody want a break? We have a kind of a lengthy next session, so, okay. All right, at this time, we're gonna take a 2 to 3 minute break. Those of you that are watching, sorry for the inconvenience, but we've got a long section coming up next, and we need a break. So we're on break. And I meant to say this in the agenda portion, but apologize to the public that will watch later, but the board came to a consensus that we would rather have longer meetings than more frequent meetings. And so that is what brings rise to item 14 and the amount of information that we have. Bobby, let me verify again that our video meetings are time-stamped so that the public, if they just want to get to the master plan update, they can go right there. Yes, is that? Okay, all right. So that's going to be very important as we are having longer meetings that the public is able to kind of get to the part that they want to get to without having to go through the whole section. All right, at this time, we're on item 14 Alpha, McPherson-Jacobson update. And for this presentation on board information, we have Dr. Barker. Is Dr. Barker getting an introduction, or are you just going to jump right in?
I'll just jump right in if that's all right.
All right, there you go.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, President Carr and board. So tonight, what I'll do tonight is I'll try to make this as succinct as possible. We'll talk about the stakeholder input report, establish the process for establishing interview questions. We won't go through that tonight, but I'll talk about the process on how we're going to do that. Discuss contract length, moving expenses, interview expenses, and so on. We'll look at the daily interview schedule. Yes, I'm sorry.
Let me interrupt you.
Yes.
For public consumption, McPherson-Jacobson, they are the search firm that we've used for our superintendent search. So he's given a report on that. I apologize to the public that we didn't give at least that introduction. All right, sorry for interrupting you. The floor is yours.
That's okay, thank you. I should have done that myself too. So thank you for doing that. Finally, we'll talk about the daily interview schedule, what that looks like, kind of talk about the groups that we're going to have meeting with the candidates. And so we'll go through all of that and have that established as we move forward. So the first item is reviewing the stakeholder input report. So that came from the survey that K-12 Insight provided to us through the district. And basically what we do is we ask 4 questions. What's good about the community? What are the qualities that people feel a superintendent should have to be successful? What are the improvement areas? And then what are the challenges that a superintendent coming in is going to need to be aware of and going to face coming into the district? So is it possible to share my screen? Because I think I have got just a quick PowerPoint that will show this.
They're working on that now. Will he see it, Bobby, or do we have to tell him? Okay, there you go.
Hey, can you see it? Okay. Can everybody see that? We've got the PowerPoint up, is that correct?
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Good. So this is the breakdown of the respondents to the survey. And on the bottom, as you can see, we had 421 responses. I honestly thought there would be more, but that's what we did get. 50% of them were parents, 24% were staff members. Parent and staff member is a staff member who has a child in the district. So that's a combination of the two. Community was 7% and other was 7%. I think that was probably some students that were included in that. We did not, students, in my understanding of surveys in the district is that parents have to opt in to surveys as opposed to opting out. So that means that you can't just give a survey and then have students opt out. So that's why there were few students that responded to that, but that was the breakdown. So what was good about the community? And what I did here, so I shared with you late this afternoon, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I shared with you the more comprehensive survey and results from K-12. And we will share that so the district can put that on their website so that can be shared with the community. What I did was I looked at 3 different areas. So between parents, staff, and community, what was common across all 3 of those? And what was common in the good about the community was the diversity and cultural richness. So really that's talking about, the Native American community, military families, socioeconomic diversity, and the unique opportunities that creates to enrich a community perspective. The next piece that was common across all 3 groups was a commitment by educators to the students and delivering specialized education, including special education and gifted programs. And finally, in the community, quality of life and community connection were positives. Location, of course, as you all know, is a draw for a lot of people as far as the opportunities, the unique opportunities for outdoor recreation in the Black Hills, and a feeling of community in many of the schools and a connection to the community for many of the staff members. The qualities that people were looking for in the superintendent: leadership and decision-making. So that included governance, including board relations, navigating political pressure, and making tough decisions, along with really a look at long-term strategic planning. So someone who had a long-term vision for the district. Experience and community connection. So background in teaching and administration in larger school districts. So that's something I know that the board had established as one of the criteria, had expressed an interest in and a desire to see. And that was backed up by the community staff and parents. Also, a deep understanding of Rapid City's specific challenges, culture, and community needs. If you recall how we worded the criteria, we talked about either understanding it or being able to understand something either similar or just that ability to quickly be able to ascertain some of the challenges in the culture community needs. Communications and community engagement. So not only strong communication skills, but visibility. So that's visibility across schools, in the community, and engaging, not only being visible, but engaging with students, staff, parents, and community members. And that included the communication side of clear communication, transparency, and honest dialogue with constituents. Areas of improvement that were noted. Infrastructure. So commenters discussed aging buildings, overcrowding that required attention moving forward, as well as the need for enhanced security protocols for keeping students and staff and visitors safe. Teacher support and retention. So they will label this on the report as retention crisis. And one of the things that was brought up was looking at compensation and the competition with not only neighboring school districts, but business in general. So losing teachers to possibly neighboring districts that may pay a little more, or just leaving the profession altogether due to some of the compensation issues. There was also some discussion of workplace environment with a need for better workload management and administrative support. And then finally, improvement areas in student behavior and academic standards. One of the things that rose to the top was the need for consistency in policies and consequences across the district, as well as a desire to strengthen all areas, academics, but core subject particularly, along with the support for struggling students. And then key challenges. Some of these will look similar. Stability, leadership stability and trust was one that came up. And the frequent turnover, creating instability and a lack of consistency that's really needed to develop that trust. And a lot of comments on a need to restore trust through transparent communication and accountability. Political and cultural divisions. I think that's something that's occurring quite a bit across the country, as we all know. But there was discussion of polarization on diversity initiatives and a balancing of community perspectives while supporting Native American students and addressing equity concerns. So those were raised on both sides of that division. And resource management and infrastructure. So facility needs, we talked about a little bit. Those were kind of repeated in this area as key challenges. But financial oversight was another concern of a common concern across the board about budget management and the need for transparency and resource allocation. So I kind of went through those kind of quickly, and I'll stop sharing and see if you have any questions on that. Like I said, the report itself goes into more detail. I don't want to put a lot of detail on the screen because it gets hard to read and it can be overwhelming. So take a look at that. And if you have questions from that as well, we can certainly address those, but would like to hear any questions you might have or comments on that part of this.
All right, board, any questions? I'll recognize hands. Dr. Barker, I will comment. I know it is disheartening, the number of surveys, but I would place money on the fact that even if you had 4,000 responses, that you would have come to the same conclusions and slideshow. At least that would be my opinion. So, all right. Any other comments? All right. Oh, Mr. Berkland.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily disagree or agree with that. That's just what I wanted to say. Because as I read through the more detailed one, there's some things in there that are frustrating to me because I don't know what else we can do when it comes to communication and trust and those things. And so I don't necessarily think that we got the whole swath of our community. So I just wanted to add that in.
Okay. Well, now you have another opinion. It's like talking about who's the greatest quarterback. Go on and on. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Berkland, for that comment. All right. Anybody else? All right, Dr. Barker.
And President Carr, what the overall report will do as well is it does break it down into each constituent category. So you'll see what, students, or not students, but parents and staff said differently, as well as community. So that'll give you another picture of that. The second thing I want to talk about is just the process that we'll use to develop interview questions. So what I will do is tomorrow I'll send you an email and ask you to provide, I'll provide you a list of questions in different categories just for a starting point. You don't have to use those, but what I would like to do is have each one of you either select 5 of those or come up with 5 that you feel represent what you came up with on the criteria and what you want to see in your new superintendent. So I'll send that out, ask for that to get returned. We'll compile it, look for similarities. And what we're looking for is basically 20 to 25 interview questions. We don't want it to go too long, but we also don't want it, we want to have it representative of what you're looking for. So that's the process we'll use. Instead of spending a lot of time on the front end, we'll do it more on the back end a little bit later.
Okay, Dr. Barker, you have a question from
Yes.
Urban?
Dr. Barker, are there different sets of questions for the different committees?
There are not necessarily different questions. They would possibly select different questions. They wouldn't ask the same questions as the board might. So there would be different questions selected, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, then let's talk about interview expenses and then moving expenses and then term of length of contract, because it kind of goes in that order. Generally, what we recommend is, paying the expense to get to Rapid City to interview. So that would be, if it's a selection for somebody out of state, it could be an airline ticket, hotel, meals, and those types of things. So within driving distance, pay mileage. But I would just like to get an idea on if someone asks. So we'll have applicants will ask different things on the application process. And so I would like to be able to answer that well. So any objection to that side of it?
All right, board members? Nope. No, I think we had a brief conversation and consensus of the understanding that that's standard procedure.
Okay. How about moving expenses? That's one that can be, I know I had one experience where that was a deal breaker for a candidate. He was the finalist and the board decided they didn't want to pay moving, a small district, of course, but did not want to pay moving expenses and he pulled out. So I think it's important to establish something for moving expenses. And again, kind of depending on where that lies, we need to have an idea on what that might be. So that could be something that can be discussed, does not have to be decided, but it will need to be something that will need to be discussed and determined before interviews take place.
Mr. Barker, in your experiences, what ranges have there been in moving expenses?
Ranges I've seen, again, smaller districts will give $1,000 to $1,500. Some districts give $3,000. So it's kind of a range, kind of estimating what a moving company would charge. So somewhere in between $1,500 and $3,000.
Okay, Mr. Swan has a question, comment.
Dr. Barker, I guess one of the things is also to maybe define the moving expenses, because I think that we were talking about deposits and hotel stays while they get all of this. So I think I think it would be important to define that a dollar amount versus like, offering services, because I know that, if we are offering like, and in my experience, there were some things that were like, paying for the closing costs for a house, things like that were negotiated. I don't think I'm interested in supporting anything other than a dollar amount, because, and what they spend it on is up to them. And as long as we get receipts from that and they're related to moving expenses, I'm cool with that. But it's not really, I'm not interested in paying for a lot of different things for a superintendent to be moving here. The salary's adequate, and I think that there's a lot of consideration, considering that we're talking about, what people want from it is somebody with budget management experience and, budget oversight. And as it's said in the longer report that, there's more fiduciary responsibility for this superintendent. I think it would be unwise for us to be entertaining other than a dollar amount that is, I'm not interested in paying, tens of thousands of dollars to get us here when we're offering such a great salary for, in the scope of our superintendent versus, not having to take on all of the entire district, just the academic side. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swan. Anybody else on the subject of moving expenses? We will have an opportunity to have that discussion tonight, Dr. Barker, and so we will have a decision tonight and communicate that to you.
Okay. And I would say, President Carr, Mr. Swan, I would say that, as we go forward, and I think Mr. Sassy could probably answer this better. I don't know. I don't know districts necessarily, but some educational entities are paying just a certain amount. It's just, this is what you get. And I don't know if you'd need receipts on that, but here's a $1,500 moving stipend or something like that. So that would kind of take care of that. Here's what you get for moving expenses. If it costs you more, you take care of it. If it costs you less, you come out in a good way. So that's also another option.
Okay, Mrs. Urban.
I was just gonna say I would support that. I like the idea of a dollar amount, like Mr. Swan said, but I'm not interested in looking at receipts. I think just a stipend makes sense and is a fair thing to offer.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dr. Barker. We're next.
Okay. And then length of contract, and that's another decision that will have to be made going into negotiations with the superintendent candidate that you choose. Coming to a consensus on that would be important.
Okay. All right. I don't know. Yeah, we'll kind of talk and see where we're at and maybe get you an answer on both of those.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll talk about the daily interview schedule and how that looks. So right now we're anticipating 3 or 4 candidates. We'd like, 4 would probably be great. If we get 3, we can adjust the schedule. I'll plan it for 4 in case you have that many. If it comes down to you have 3 great candidates, you don't want to go 4, we can move some things around. So the state or the groups that the board wants to be a part of this, and I'm thinking administrators, staff, community, and then the board having their interview section. Are there others that I'm missing that we need to account for? Sometimes districts will have students involved.
I was going to suggest students. Maybe the student school board.
That'd be interesting. Yeah. So we have Dr. Barker, we just established a student school board in our district. And so Ms. Stephenson is suggesting maybe they would be a group to consider. All right, any other suggestions? You said, I'm assuming teachers are under administration? Is that the same?
They've been staffed, yes. Yep. And so with the way it's set up, what'll have to happen is that the teachers on that day and administrators for that matter, that'll be a full day for them. So, they'll have to get a substitute. Whereas in different, if you have different days, then they're able to have it after school, different things like that. But the group of teachers that are selected, administrators that are selected, that will be a full day for them.
Okay, Dr. Strasser?
Speaking of teachers, I think you would want RCA involved in that process. I know they are interested in being a part of the process.
Okay, Ms. Urban?
I did have one conversation with some leadership at Elevate, and they had expressed interest or at least a willingness to hold like a mixer that evening so the community could meet candidates. I don't know if that's something you've seen, Dr. Barker, in the past, but I think that could be a nice opportunity for our community.
And Ms. Urban, I have seen that, and I actually participated in it. It was in one interview I had long ago. It was interesting for sure, but what it did was it allowed the community to hear all of the candidates speak to certain questions, and then the way this was done was basically they were in the audience, candidates were in the front of the room, a question was asked, each one responded, which I thought, if you're going 3rd or 4th, you have quite an advantage, and they rotated around, but it could be that way, or it could be, and then it was a mixture after that. So it was a few questions from the community. They got to hear each of the candidates speak to the question, and then it was some time just to meet them. People would come up and talk to you, ask you questions again, and so that certainly could be done. Yep.
All right. All right.
Okay. And then another question then is, and I can work with Mr. Manuel on this one as well, is so their spouse, significant other. I'll basically work with him on that, on involving them in the interview process, whether there's a tour, whether they go along. I've seen that at times where they go with the candidate to not necessarily the board interview, but some of the other pieces kind of involved in that. And so I'll work with him on trying to get some things set up for the spouses or significant others if they come, to get a tour of the of the city and some of the schools, and just to see, especially if they're not familiar with Rapid City. So we'll certainly do that.
Do districts pay for a spouse to come to an interview?
They have, it goes both, it happens both ways. They sometimes will pay for it. Otherwise, if the spouse is coming, the candidate will pay for it generally.
Okay.
Okay, and we decided on the 10th, so that's all set. So we're good to go on that. The question I would have for the board, and again, remember that this is going.
Dr. Barker?
Oh, yes.
That's March 10th.
Yes.
Okay. And for public information, so March 10th is our target to have interviews for the superintendent candidate finalists. Yeah. Say that again. Oh, okay. All right.
President Carr.
Yes.
This is the first I'm hearing of this, of the 10th.
I think we discussed it in the last meeting, in the timetable briefing. Yeah, we came out with the.
Did I miss it? I must have missed it because I'm just.
Yeah, I don't think you would. Yeah.
You have it on the calendar? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I think that was my understanding, President Carr, due to the negotiations, and then that was a day that was going to work well.
Yes.
That's the thought.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's no problem at all. I stopped to mention that, so that gives the community a reference on the timetable. So again, by March 10th, we'll be doing that interview process. So.
Okay, let's see. So one of the things I guess I will ask is, you may be doing an interview first thing out of the gate with a candidate. What time in the morning would the board like to start this process? Recognizing that there's going to be 5 different groups at least throughout the day that a candidate will have to go see.
We have a board member that gets up at 5 a.m., so that's already a no. So, so start time, any suggestions? 8, yeah, makes sense to me. All right, Dr. Barker, 8 o'clock.
Okay, perfect.
8 a.m., I should specify.
Okay. I think that is all that I have. Are there other questions for me?
Board members, any questions? Mr. Berkowitz?
It's not so much a question for you as a clarification of my previous statement. Thank you for those survey results. I don't want me to say that they are nothing. I will take those into account. And those are important ideas from our community. I want to say that to the community too. I'm not saying I'm throwing all these out. I'm just saying I do think that for our information as the board, that there are also other opinions out there than maybe necessarily on there. So thank you for that. And
all right,
I didn't mean to come off as like I hated the survey. I did not.
All right, Mr. Barker, thank you for the report. Is there any other board member that has any other question that they can think of? And Dr. Barker, we will commit to get to this information as soon as possible. I will bring up one thing. There was a request for some personal contact information from each of the board members. There was a form. I don't know who specifically that came from, but I think it was a consensus of the board that we would not fill out that personal information, and each of us can be contacted through our school board emails. And I guess if a board member wants to give their phone number, I guess that's their privilege. But at this time, contact will be limited to our school board email.
Okay. Yeah, that came from the home office. It's a process they do. So I'll let them know and we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you very much. Anything else from anyone else? All right, Dr. Barker, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Take care. All right, next we have the legislative report.
President Carr, I'll start. This is going to be short. We are not joined by Mr. Nelson this evening as he had a prior commitment. I'll make some comments, and then if Corey has anything, Dr. Strasser has anything additional, he can certainly add that. Just want to quickly run through some of the major bill updates. Contrary to some of the information you received earlier tonight, HB 1009 and HB 1020, which were the two bills aimed at voucher / education savings accounts, were both killed. Both sent to the 41st day by their respective committees. Mr. Nelson does say it's highly likely that they're going to see a smoke out of those bills. I had to ask, can you give me a two-sentence definition of what a smoke out is? Essentially, it's where the committee resurrects the bill and somehow continues to pass it on through the process to force a vote out onto the floor. So that is likely to happen, but both bills were killed in their respective committees. HB 1089, again, contrary to what you heard earlier this evening, which, is the nutrition bill that amends the parameters of free and reduced lunch qualification for students, did pass through House Education. However, it was passed with a do not pass motion. Again, that seems quite counterintuitive to me, but I think essentially the idea being we wanted to get out of the committee and have its fade out on the full floor. So the committee is saying to the full floor, don't pass it, but we're passing it on to you to pass it. Seems very interesting. I'm learning a lot. A couple of the other bills that are moving that I think, especially from a fiscal perspective, we really want to keep an eye on. SB 55, which is what I would call like the normal state aid bill. That bill adjusts the tax levies fairly minimally, just year over year tax levy adjustments like we see every year, and then sets the target teacher compensation. It's, in my opinion, written incorrectly in the bill because it says increases state aid by 1.25%. It does not. It increases the target teacher compensation by 1.25%. That bill is currently in House Appropriations. I find it interesting. The majority of the major lobbying groups in several other school districts are supporting that bill at a 1.25% increase to the target teacher compensation, which I find very interesting. I think you could probably ask any organization or individual around the country, and they would say there's absolutely no way that the inflationary costs that they've faced over the year have been 1.25%. Furthermore, the current law states that it should be at least 3%. So I think it's interesting that groups are supporting that at its current level. Obviously, it is my opinion that we need to push to request that increase be at least 3% to honor the current law. And certainly, I think we could find a lot of supporting documentation that inflation would be far over 3% and that it should be higher. I think also the thing to keep in mind when discussing that bill is the idea that not only is that the intention of that increase to cover inflation, which in my opinion it does not, it is also to continually increase teacher compensation, which we heard loud and clear was a focus last year, which is now tied again into the current law that we increase teacher compensation. And so it becomes very difficult to do that with such a minimal increase. So something to keep our eye on as all these other bills float around. But I do think we oppose that and that we continue to strive for a better increase than that. Three bills that are attached to property taxes and or valuation in some way, two of which, as far as I can see, are essentially the exact same bill, only one from the House and one from the Senate. So HB 1019 and SB 121. As far as I can see, the bills are identical. They reduce the general fund and sped levies to zero and increase sales tax. It's still awaiting a hearing. Neither bill has been scheduled for a hearing. I think there's a significant amount of unanswered questions in regard to how these bills impact districts' overall property valuation, how it impacts districts' ability to perform opt-outs and bonds. How does it impact the state aid formula? Obviously, property valuation is something written into the formula and consideration. So how does it impact the formula, and how will the rewrite of the formula look? Outside of those really logistical things, I think we also have to think about, we're moving the single largest revenue source for most school districts from a very stable source like property tax revenue to a very unstable source in sales tax. And this year is a great example of that. Economy is down, tourism is down. The last I heard, state sales tax collections were behind about 20% of their anticipated collections. So this bill is not a minor change for the district. I certainly understand the idea of wanting to provide property tax relief, but these are not minor changes. These are major changes, not only for our district, but districts across the state. And I believe we really need to understand how this bill works. And until we understand that, again, we oppose. And then the last bill I wanted to provide an update on was SB 101, again, a property tax or valuation bill. This bill provides a tax credit to limit the taxes due on property over the previous year. So effectively what this bill does is set a property valuation ceiling at 3% per year. So if your particular property rose above 3%, you would receive a tax credit that would push that valuation back down and cap it at the 3%. Again, as an entity that relies on property valuation to drive revenue, I think we have to be concerned about the adverse effect on school districts. Again, I think in a year like this, where we've seen inflation far outside of the 3%, and the idea that our single largest revenue source would essentially be capped from a year-over-year perspective is very concerning. Also, like the other bills, property tax related bills, I think there could be major ramifications to how districts approach opt-outs, approach bonds. All those things are attached to property valuations, and so it would really restrict. In particular, you think about, for example, a district's ability to bond. Obviously, the assumption in property valuation appreciation on a year-over-year basis is a major factor in what that would look like, and so limiting that at a 3% would greatly impact the district's ability to bond out. So lots of unknown variables. Again, I think best to oppose until we know more. That's all I had. Dr. Strasser, anything that you wanted to mention under this item?
I think you explained things really well, Mr. Sassy, and provided some really good thinking around our positions. There are some, I'm really in a lot of watch and monitor the status on a lot of these bills. And when you look at, like Mr. Berkland brought up earlier, HB 1171, when you start looking at those bills that start saying what should be in certain curriculum, a lot of my thinking will be around what our state process is for establishing our standards and then allowing districts to meet those standards. So that'll really guide how I throw our support or opposition to bills when they start talking about changing or mandating certain things in curriculum. I know the bill on chaplains is starting, on volunteer chaplains is starting to move. I don't have a recommendation yet, but I know there's some duplicity of responsibility, and then there's just concerns on what that mandates schools to do. So probably leaning towards opposition on that one, and hope to have that for you at the next at our next meeting. So those are the ones that kind of propped up, and I wanted you to understand how I was looking at them, and I'll get some more formality for you.
Thank you. And just for clarity on our position paper, so board, when we get that recommendation and it's on the agenda, it is a recommendation that, excuse me, that we need to, it is a recommendation that we need to approve or oppose. And one of the difficulties that Mr. Sassy and Dr. Strasser had is the ability to put the positions on and then give us the option to pull whatever particular legislation off and say, we like everything else, but we don't want to either make a decision or change our position. And so that's kind of the difficulty in that formatting of that position paper, I guess I'll say, okay? So anything else?
No, sir.
On the legislative report. Ms. Stephenson.
I have a question, Coy.
Mhm.
The property tax switch to sales tax. Did they, have they stated if the sales tax will be local input or, local contribution? Like, are they gonna piece out sales tax to different municipalities and that's their local contribution?
Yeah. I think that's a really excellent question, and again, is one of those things that's not specified in the bill in terms of what exactly is gonna happen when the property tax is removed and sales tax. I think the bill reads, the intention of backfilling essentially the loss in property taxes. So I think those are all excellent questions. And just in general, what is that going to look like? Because right now, we have a very well-defined formula that we don't love it. I don't love it. But we know how all these different factors are going to impact that formula and the overall financial situation. We don't know anything about this bill at this point in terms of the logistical mechanics of, your question is a great one. What does this look like in terms of local effort? Is it part of local effort? Is it not? How do you determine what the portion of state aid the sales tax is going to make up? Because that's embedded in the formula. So I think there's just a ton of unanswered questions at this point. In this, to me, is a bill that on the surface it sounds great. I think as you dig deeper, there's a lot of really concerning aspects of it in terms of what is it actually going to do and what does that mean to schools? So I think it's a great question, and,
Right.
and no, I don't believe there's an answer.
And capital outlay too. I mean,
Yeah.
would our property tax, or would capital outlay come from sales tax?
So at this point, there is nothing in the bill that addresses the capital outlay levy. So the assumption would be made that capital outlay essentially would stay the same. To me, the difference is, the issue is, the general fund and sped levy make up a significant portion of the overall valuation of the district. So if you take away the ability to levy that, what happens? Does that remove it from the valuation as well? Or is it just, you can't levy on it, but it's still included in the overall valuation? So how it touches some of those other aspects of our system, again, are totally unanswered questions.
Do we have any idea about a hearing day for that one?
I did ask Mr. Nelson, and he was going to try to push some folks and see if he could hear when it was going to be out into one of the committees and have a hearing, and he hasn't heard anything yet. So we'll keep an eye on it for sure. To me, it's a big deal.
Yeah, just speaking as myself as one board member, when I look at this list of bills, there's a lot that gets me fired up kind of personally, separation of church and state. There are things that I really believe in.
Sure.
But as a board, looking out for the best interest of the district, this is the bill that, this and vouchers are the bills that worry me. And I don't want us to get caught up in the politicization of public schools as much as
some of those bills might get me as an individual fired up. But as a district, I think we should, it sounds like these are the two
Yeah.
that we've got to keep our close.
I would totally agree, and not to put too fine of a point on it, but again, I think what's not being given enough attention is the idea of moving away from property tax as the major revenue source into sales tax, and how volatile of a revenue source that could be. I mean, I think you could probably plot out district valuations across the state over the last 50 years, and you would see not always significant upward movement, but at least an upward trend. Certainly, I think we could say that for our own district, and the idea of then moving to a source where you could have a year like this, where the state goes, hey, sorry, we're 20% behind in sales tax collections, and you get zero increase to the target teacher salary, if that's still a component of the formula. I mean, those are, in my opinion, much more likely outcomes in those situations than with property tax being the major funding source for public schools.
Ms. Urban.
I know we have very capable lobbyists, but I hope that you and other business managers around the state are asking these questions and are testifying just because you understand it at a deeper level that I'm sure a lot of the legislators do.
Yeah, absolutely. Would agree. Yeah, I would certainly take the opportunity to testify on any of these bills. And I believe Mr. Nelson would back that up and try to arrange that as well.
Okay, anything else on the legislative report? All right, thank you, gentlemen. That was very informative. At this time, we're on to the master plan update by Co-op Architect.
Thank you, President Carr. So tonight we're joined by Mr. Jared Sarda of Co-op Architecture. Jared has led the process in terms of the district's master plan. We've been in master planning with Co-op for a few months now. Yeah, process is going well. We discussed and thought this would be an appropriate time to start bringing Co-op in on a regular basis at our regular board meetings to provide updates in terms of what that process looks like, how it's going. Obviously, as we start moving closer to a final product from Co-op, it's good to have some updates from the full board. They've worked a lot with, of course, Jade and myself, the facilities committee, but good for the full board to start hearing some updates on this process. So thank you, Mr. Sarda. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Coy. Good evening, President Carr, members of the board. Appreciate you having me. And like Coy said, I'll give you an update, but I kind of wanted to give you a little background on us, just as this is the first time I'm got to be in front of you. So thank you for that. My name is Jared Sarda. I'm a principal architect with Co-op Architecture. We office just down the street here, just actually a couple blocks here. So there's six of us full-time here in this office. And then we have offices in Sioux Falls and Aberdeen as well. So we cover the whole state. And we've been fortunate enough to work with other districts, all over the state, and then some of the kind of the tri-state area here too. So most of our resources that we are using for this, and I just think it's important to note that are from our office here. We're invested in the community, and we kind of hold this kind of as a stakeholder pretty close to our hearts as well. So I just think that was important to mention. But I wanted to give you kind of an update of where we are. This is actually a pretty busy week for us. We're doing the community input sessions. We had our first one last night, one of 4 at Rapid Valley Elementary there. And then we have one tomorrow night at Central, one Thursday night at Stevens, and then one next Monday at the Alternative High School there. So the attendance last night wasn't great, but I think we still had a lot of good discussion. I think the weather probably had something to kind of play into that. It was, I think, single digits there last night, and wind and all the fun stuff of winter here. But a lot of good dialogue, a lot of good conversation. We kind of went through our process, how we're kind of evaluating things, and did a couple activities with them. So try to get everybody engaged and try to give everybody an opportunity to talk. Maybe one of the advantages of a smaller group last night was we were able to divide those attendees in groups, and they all had a chance to kind of speak up, and we just had some interesting dialogue last night. So I wanted to thank Bobby for setting those up. I mean, it's just takes a lot to kind of get those all set up in a place to be and stuff. So small plug, if there's anybody listening or anybody that hasn't had a chance to see those, make sure you look up those, and they're at 5 to 7 each one of those nights. So, and again, they're not just for, that certain school where they're at, they're for the general district. So I just wanted to make that note as well with that. So, along with that, I just kind of want to go back to where we've been. We were able to visit, when we first started the project, and we were working with Jade, we visited all the buildings, kind of take stock of just everything. And, it took a good 2-3 weeks there of some full days to kind of go through everything and with the principals and just kind of understand kind of at a, at a ground level of where each building is and kind of how the principals, and it was interesting just to see kind of the different, just the different mood of each school district and kind of the theme, I guess, with those. So that was really fun. And we've just been able to access a lot of data and stuff there from just drawings and what's being done, what has been done for projects. So it's just fun to dive into all that stuff. We've also been able to do a couple extra workshops too, or in addition to the ones we're doing now, we did one with the PTA group, and then we got all the principals together and we're able to hear from them. So just great conversation. We do a few different activities with them, and one of our favorite ones that we like to do is we call it co-op cash, and it kind of lets them kind of figure out their priorities and kind of what they put their money into, I guess. And what we like about that is it kind of puts them in your shoes. You have so many different things to do, so many different priorities, but you only have so much kind of cash to spend and do all those. So we really like the kind of the effect that does and the dialogue that creates. In addition to that, surveys at the end of the year. I hope everybody had a chance to see those, but we sent a survey out again with Bobby's help to kind of get that out there. And it was kind of fun to look online and stuff and see some of the comments and stuff that were coming from that. But we had over 2,700 responses with those. So just really excited, and it was just amazing to see that many responses. So from those, we were able to kind of get data where they all came from too. So we had a good balance of all the buildings and representation from all of those, from students to grandparents to teachers and staff. So we're still, as you can imagine, 2,700 responses. We're still kind of pouring over that data and taking that all in. But if you come to one of the sessions, you'll get to kind of see some of the tools we're using to look at those. So I did want to just kind of go over some of the main topics of those. I won't go kind of a high level with those, but just some of the themes that came from those, and I'm happy to answer any questions on those. But one thing that we've really learned is people want to be involved. They want to be heard. That was something that was kind of mentioned over and over. Some other themes though, just infrastructure, maintenance, classroom size. Safety, security was a really big one. Inclusive, accessibility, technology, community engagement, and then recreation and wellness facilities as well. So as we went through those, what was really interesting to us is, when we first started, we with the building committee, we had some guiding principles that we established as a group, and we still kind of each meeting we kind of go back and revisit those and just make sure that they're on point as we go through this process. So ironically enough, safety security is one of those, sustainable growth and flexibility, modernized educational facilities, and long-term investment. So as you can see kind of where the committee's at and where things are starting to come in, they really align. So it's just kind of interesting to go through that. So with that, so it's going to be a fun week here, a busy week of going through all that stuff, but we're just excited. We hope we get some, looks like the weather is supposed to straighten out a little bit tomorrow. So we're just hoping to, get a larger crowd and continue that conversation. So what we're looking at is a draft to you guys early March here, and then kind of take some time to review that and then finalize that by the end of March to give you guys kind of time to process that and, develop some next steps with that. So I hope I kind of covered everything, Coy, that you were hoping tonight. I think the plan would be to present that here at the, one of those next meetings then. So as we had developed that draft, so.
Okay, thank you for the report. Board members, any other comments, questions? I would like to say, for clarity for the community, I think either last year or year before, there was talk about the district having a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, building plan, and at that time, we had not. So this process and this conversation addresses that issue, that we are now putting together that plan so that the community will know what direction, and in a lot of cases, what he's talking about tonight, what you want the direction of the district to be in. So that's why these surveys, these meetings are so important, because as we desire and want your input, we can't get it if you don't come or you don't speak up. So that's what this process is a commitment at the end of this process to have that. I think is it 10-year?
Yeah, we're kind of looking at probably a 10-year master plan with
five
that.
to 10-year
So
master plan. So that's what we're doing. All right. Any other questions, comments? Thank you so very much for your time and the report.
appreciate it, and I hope to see a lot of people tomorrow night. It's I promise it'll be fun and engaging. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Informational item. We're going to talk about gaggle.
Yes, guess that would be me.
Yes.
But I don't know that I hadn't really planned to present or to speak. I was, but as the prevention specialist, my name is Roxanne Engel, and I took over for Sarah Zimmerman this summer as prevention specialist, and have been working very closely with the grant writer for the mental health grant that the district was just awarded. And one of the components in there is teletherapy. And so looking into some of the different services that are out there, speaking with counselors on how this would work, the administrative staff support at Gaggle. The program is actually called Reach Out that we would be looking into. And the item that was written for the board actually talks specifically about students being able to use this service, and they can. Students, what it is, they have trained counselors that are available 24/7 for this rate that they've quoted us. Students would be able to text or call or even reach out via teletherapy 24/7. I've worked looked into things related to FERPA law with this and all the logistics. The district would be given information, much like with Handle with Care, for the students that reach out. They would follow the same type of protocols that 988 follows if a student were to call in and be in crisis. So we would connect them with law enforcement officials and numbers and contacts and things in our community. We would come up with a system. Part of it is, I think sometimes our students may need that assistance outside of school hours, and it would give them someone that they can talk to. I think 988 is geared more as a suicide prevention line, and this is a line that we can let students know. It's related to, I've just had an argument with my mom. I just broke up with my, significant other. It can be all those pieces. And so I think that provides a service that as a district, we simply cannot provide our students. Like I said, especially outside of school hours. So we would get input from them. There would be a system in terms of determining which students would need follow-up. We'd have a follow-up process with our school counselors, and we would work from there. The other thing about Reach Out is that it also includes this service for our staff. Anybody on our district staff can call in at any point. And so having, not to connect it to this week, but I'm going to, having spent the days at Horace Mann over the last week and a half, I can tell you that I think this would have been huge to be able to provide to the staff there. Because while they were there, even though we did have West River Mental Health and we had the crisis team, they were in their classrooms. And I think for many of them, it hit them perhaps when they went home and it was quiet. And so again, I think it would be a phenomenal service for our students and our staff. related to staff, we would not get any information regarding who called in. The only thing that we would be provided is numbers of how many contacted, how many utilized the service. And the reason for that is so that we can determine how effective it is, if we're utilizing it, if we want to continue with the program, moving forward. They have offered us a 6-month kind of a period to try this out. Normally it's on a year contract. So that gives us from essentially they were thinking February 1st through the end of July, and we could collect data and move forward from there.
Hey, Dr. Strasser.
I just want to commend Roxanne for bringing this forward. We're always looking at ways to provide the services that our students and in this case also our staff in order to support their well-being and growth and development as people. So I think this is another opportunity for us, and we wanted to bring this as an information item for you as a board so that you're aware of how we're trying to work with our students and staff.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Urban.
Ms. Single, thank you for everything you do. So this is, I know it's not like the suicide line, but is it more of just a crisis line, or can they have a counselor that they talk to all the time where they set it up? I want to talk to you every Monday night and you're my therapist.
No, that generally is not the situation. What I've been told is that if they see a pattern with a particular student, or there's a unique situation, they would be willing to look at that opportunity. But at this point, they don't know necessarily, when a student might need to call in. And so it is not intended to be ongoing therapy. Yeah.
And I just one follow-up. Are parents made aware of it in any way, or is it just they can call? There's no sort of contract in between. It's just call if you need help.
Correct. And yes, parents would be made aware of it, but much like, and we've worked through those pieces in terms of the legalities of a student being able to contact without parental consent. We would touch base kind of with some of the staff to determine ways that we would essentially inform all the stakeholders, staff, parents, students, so that they would be aware. And even given the event like this last week, they even informed me that if a parent called in concerned about their student, they would not turn them away. So.
Right, Ms. Clapham.
Thank you so much for the information. I think we all know with critical staff shortage that finding creative solutions to support mental health is really important. So in that, you were talking about the numbers, like, would that be part of your role to keep up, or does Gaggle itself keep up with statistics of the use levels?
They can provide us the reports however we want them. And I've been working a little bit with IT and with the grant personnel to determine what that would look like if we want the numbers, on at the end of the month, at the end of the semester, that type of thing. But we will be looking at those pieces in general, just related to the grant. So.
And then my other question is the rollout on introducing how this works. Will that be mainly like through our Thrill Share, or what kind of does that, I know that's like a really loaded question, so I apologize for how heavy of a question that is.
Yeah, and that's a piece that we're still kind of working out. I'm planning to speak with the student school board next Tuesday, and also the youth city council to see if they would be interested in creating a video or some type of a document that could then be loaded up into Canvas with the assistance of Nicole Keegan, and get that out to students and to staff through Canvas. We can put it on the website. There can be a QR code. There will Gaggle Reach Out will provide posters, and we can modify those posters because I think that there are some specific things that should be on there. We do, for example, need to get across to families at the schools and students that we cannot provide a private space during the school day for them to do teletherapy, for example. So that there are some pieces in terms of communicating out, and that's in the building. Obviously, we can't provide those, but then if a student, I know in my 19 years as a high school counselor, I had a number of students who weren't coming to school because they were in an emotional crisis. And it would be nice if they had somebody to reach out to in those moments, you know? So.
Is there a projected date that this will go live? Or
They could have it live tomorrow. What it really comes down to is getting answers to some of the questions that you have brought up. And I do have a meeting with the grant writer tomorrow and with the individuals from Gaggle to process it.
is there a projected date to get all of that done?
I would hope we'd be looking the week after President's Day weekend at the latest.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, again, another awesome report. Any board member has any questions, comments? All right, thank you so much. I know it's late. I appreciate your time.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
Committee reports. I'll see hands and we'll go from there. I think we're making good time considering the length of our agenda. So I appreciate everyone. All right, committee reports, and I will recognize Mrs. Stephenson.
Thanks. You know, co-op is and the development of the master plan is kind of the main work of the facilities committee right now. So you've gotten the update that we could have given you. I know that you all were updated in leadership notes about the damage at Kib and Custer, vandals. We got a more thorough report on that. And the district plans to do some asbestos abatement as long as the building is not in use. So to take care of an old problem while we're fixing the new problem. We have some upcoming bids, Central High School remodel project for the library, the social studies math wing, the bathroom upgrade, choir curtain replacement and flooring will be a bid. And then Stevens, they'll have a bid for the west storefront and pit cover. And that's kind of all that was going on at the facilities meeting. The other thing that I wanted to report on, if Katie and President Carr don't mind, is the student school board. The three of us participated in their first meeting. It was really great. It was wonderful to see them holding elections and having some discussions about their qualities of who should be the leader, set up some policies and procedures. The reason I wanted to bring it up to the whole board is we are going to be sending representatives, and I wanted you all to know that when you do go to a student school board meeting, you're sitting at the dais much where the student representatives are sitting for our meetings. And they would like a report from one of the school board liaisons. And I think it's such a great opportunity, you know, like to say, this is what we're doing with facilities. This is what we're watching with the legislature. This is, you know, a new mental health thing that we're excited about. But so I wanted to give you a heads up that if you signed up for a meeting, come prepared to give a little bit of a report. That's basically all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Urban.
Just on the student school board, if we signed up, Shirley, just point of clarification, do you have that information and do we get invites? Okay, just, okay. Okay, thank you. The only thing I was going to add to Christine's facilities report, just on the vandalism at Kib and Custer, it was really substantial. They said around $60,000 in damage. It's massive. I'm grateful for our local law enforcement. They were able to likely identify the individuals and they're investigating, their juveniles. So there's not gonna be a lot of public information about them. But yeah, it was a big deal. So it's really unfortunate that that happened. And then I was gonna add that the Wilson boiler, one of two, correct, Coy? They have two boilers, one of the boilers went out. So it was incredibly cold and it was around the time where the temperatures were really, really low. So, Donna had mentioned that she had gone to visit and it was a day when the teachers were just there. It was for a professional learning day. And they were all in parkas, and so not a good situation. Luckily, it got warmer the next day and when kids were there, so that's good news. But they are working to get some pricing on one. Hopefully, they will have that up and going fairly soon. They didn't have the costs yet, but they were thinking somewhere between 50 and 100,000. Yeah. And that's all I have. Most of my committees are coming up in the next week, so. That's it.
And just to the community, I'm not a person to be overly dramatic, but when we talk about our need for facilities and we talk about being one piece of equipment away from a whole school shutting down, this is an example of what we're talking about. I mean, we're not making up stuff. We're not exaggerating the extent of that building. And so if one boiler can go down, I mean, they're the same boiler, it could be two. And so we're looking at trying to figure out what to do with 400, 500 kids. And so this is an example of when we are passionate about talking about a bond, when we're passionate about the need for new schools, this is what keeps me and us up at night. It would be a worst case scenario that one boiler went down, two boilers go down, you don't have a school. And so I just want to make that point that here's the real world example of what we fear. So, all right, Mrs. Clapham.
Be very short and sweet. One thing I just want to put out that, our committees, sometimes the collaboration is a beautiful thing. So both policy and the OCR are kind of coming together as far as the public complaint policy, and that's going to be reviewed and worked through OCR. There hasn't been another meeting since, but just for people to be aware of that. That from community outreach, the next board corner will be coming out soon, so be looking for that. And from ASBSD, so from the state level, I will be in Pierre on President's Day for the next meeting, but also somewhat unfortunately, we had a wonderful CFO who just put in her resignation. It is a large group with a lot of finances to manage, so we're going to be figuring out what that looks like. She will continue to work remotely through sometime in March, but that is going to be probably our biggest job, is finding a new CFO for the board.
Is that it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, moving on to other. Anybody with an other? Ms. Clapham.
See, I just moved on to something else. Couple of just shout outs. One, I want to say a thank you first to President Carr and contributing to Culture Night at Blackhawk Elementary. So President Carr gave me a cooking lesson in the church kitchen so that we could contribute to Blackhawk's Culture Night. They actually had 30% more students come out to Culture Night this year than last year. It was a great turnout. It was a great event. We had some DDL that was present. It was just a really good event and great energy, and it was great to be a part of that. I wanted to give a shout out to Stevens High School. I saw that they had a meeting for a collaborative booster club, and I just really am excited about the idea that parents who have a debate student, an orchestra student, a football player, a basketball player, that they really just want to unify and work together. And that's what we want to see for our kids, for all of our kids. And so I want to applaud them on that effort. Just, it's been said, but many condolences to the staff, students, everyone at Horace Mann. It has been a really, really challenging time for them. I cannot imagine all the emotions. So I wanted to say my sincere condolences, and it is always painful to lose a member of this district and this district family. And the last thing, I'm going to just quote this parent directly because I wanted to give them public acknowledgement. I will not read their full email, but to say for Miss Curry at West, she said, my child is currently an 8th grader and her experience with Mrs. Curry has made a world of difference. We have never had a teacher or any professional address an issue with such care and thoughtfulness. Ms. Curry's efforts have been nothing short of extraordinary, and we are incredibly grateful for her dedication to our daughter's success and well-being. RCAS and West Middle School are truly fortunate to have a teacher like Ms. Curry, and we wanted to ensure her hard work does not go unnoticed. Thank you for being a positive impact on our child. And so, you know, when we're in the trenches and we're tired and we hear all the negatives, we always know there are people making major impacts on kids. So shout out to Ms. Curry. If anybody else hears this or reads this, please let her know. And next time I am at West, I will definitely tell her in person.
All right, wonderful. Any other board member with an other? Okay, seeing there are none, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session SDCL 1-25-2.1 and 2.3.
Motion.
Second then.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. All right, we are now officially in executive session. We will not be taking any votes, making